Check out ProBoxingSupplies.com, PowerPerformanceProducts.com, and you're watching MMAinterviews.tv.
You just made me hungry by saying
I know.
we've been here.
Oh yeah, you guys are hungry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
You want me to show you my ribs right now? Sorry.
So Carlos, going into this, it looks like people are favoring Nick. How do you feel about it?
You know, that's great. I've been the underdog the majority of my career, and you know, it looks like this fight's no different. You know, I know that it's a huge challenge, but you know, it's just motivation. You know, I've made a career of proving doubters wrong.
You're a former champ in the WC. Do you feel like you're getting enough recognition for that?
You know, I think, you know, you're only as good as your last fight, and you know, if you start resting on your laurels, that's when you know take a downward spiral in your career. So, you know, I'm not thinking about anything other than beating Nick Diaz on Saturday.
Carlos, are you happy with the way the primetime show's been edited?
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't know, you know, it's you know, the first one was, you know, Nick Diaz for about 5 minutes and me the rest of the time, and then the second one was more Nick Diaz, and then they had the deal at the end with George St. Pierre, and you know, it's cool. You know, I hope that it gets people interested in the fight.
Did your opinion or anything change while watching Nick's segment? Or feelings towards him?
No, not so much, man. You know, I think they portray him as maybe kind of a misunderstood guy, and I kind of had that opinion, you know, before any of this all happened.
What's the best piece of advice that either Greg Jackson or Winklejohn or any mentor you've had has given you about Nick Diaz?
Probably don't play into his mental games. You know, don't let him get under my skin. You know, he likes to kind of you know, coax a guy into you know, into a face punching competition with him, and you know, that's not a fight you're going to win with Nick Diaz. So, you know, just staying focused and not letting him you know, get in my head, basically.
Nick's had some really top-level Muay Thai guys out to help him. There's some good boxers in Albuquerque. Have you brought in some top-level boxers to help you work for him?
Not so much. There is great boxers in Albuquerque. Not a whole lot that are my size. You know, they're mostly smaller guys. So, no, you know, mainly I've been focusing on what I do well, and you know, trying to see, you know, what skills that I have that can counter Nick Diaz.
Do you feel like watching the Nate fight against Cerrone have you watched that, and does that give you anything, do you learn anything from that?
I did.
Because of matchup with Nick.
I did. Nate's a different fighter than Nick is, and Donald Cerrone and myself are different fighters. But, I mean, it does give me a little bit of insight.
I just was going to ask you. Totally forgot.
Nick said that in preparing for this fight, he has to think about losing his teeth. Do you think about that as well?
Losing my teeth? No, I hadn't thought about it. But, you know, I thought about, you know, getting my ass kicked. You know, I visualize all different scenarios. You know, I know that I'm stepping in against the toughest guy that I've ever fought, and you know, in my entire career. And you know, I know that you know, that we're both going to be a mess after this fight.
I guess the point is that it's not like preparing for Dunk on Kim. You know, a guy who's going to judo you and hold you down. This is a guy who really wants to tap into his natural point killer, like you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Nick is a fighter. You know, I'm a fighter. We're gonna come and fight. You know, this isn't a wrestling match. This is not a jiu-jitsu competition. We're gonna step in there and try to beat the snot out of each other.
I remember now. In the Q&A, GSP said that on the ground, Nick is more sort of technical and persistent, and you create chaos, is what he said. Do you see it that way, and is that a stylistic choice on your part?
Yeah, I would say that. In my career, I've trained for lots and lots of wrestlers and guys who use top control to smother you and hold you down. So by creating chaos, like George St. Pierre said, I can create space and be able to maybe get away, get out from underneath the guy, and impose my game. You know, which is my stand-up. And not only that, I think that chipping away at somebody, even if you're hitting somebody with elbows or you're hitting somebody with small shots that aren't necessarily going to gonna hurt them or gonna finish them, but it wears on somebody mentally. That no matter what position they put me in, that they're still in a fight. They're still getting hit.
Do you feel like a bit of a spoiler in terms of the fact that GSP has publicly said he's rooting for Nick to win? He really wants to fight Nick. So do you feel that you could play a little bit of a spoiler role if you win on Saturday night and that you would be the one facing him for the title?
Yeah, well, I mean, that'd be, that would kind of be messing up his plans, because I know he really wants to fight Nick. They have some beef with, from what Nick said after his last fight, and that's understandable. But I'm my job is to beat Nick Diaz, and the rest is kind of just it's other people's opinions and feelings, I guess.
If you were to get past this, would you want to sit out till November when George said he'll be able to return or fight again? The past couple of years, I haven't been as busy as I would have liked, especially in 2011. I only fought one time. I was supposed to fight 3 times. I had an injury. Finally fought Dong Hyun Kim. Was supposed to fight BJ and then George, and that fight fell through. But it looks like two times in a year is kind of what's that's how it's going to be, and so waiting for another fight would be okay. I mean, I don't know. I would have to sit down with my coaches and my management and really think about that. How has it been having your new son, and has that added motivation? Has that retracted?
Yeah, no, it's a huge motivation. When my son was born, it gave me a completely different outlook on my career. I had been burnt out, and I, wasn't so sure that that I was still loved the sport, and I just had a whole new perspective. Once I had my son, and I realized the opportunities that I have. The fact that I get paid good money to train and to fight for a living, and even though I spent a lot of time training, I still have probably more time than if I was working a normal job to spend with my family.
How do you feel about the fact that you're fighting for an interim title as opposed to the straight up title? And does that weigh on you at all, or do you feel like you will legitimately be the champ if you win Saturday?
I feel like George St. Pierre is the champion. He's been such a dominant force in the welterweight division that until somebody beats him, he's the champion. It's a huge fight. Regardless of all that, it's the biggest fight of my life, toughest opponent I've ever faced, biggest stage that I've ever fought on, and that's really what's important to me.
Is that the most exciting thing for you, that you're a fighter's fighter and standing across the cage from you, you're going to have another fighter's fighter?
Absolutely. Nick Diaz is a guy that I've been excited to be matched up against for a really long time. I like to entertain the fans. I love and I take pride in the fact that people like to watch me fight, because I bring exciting fights, and that's what this fight is. That this has fight of the night, possibly fight of the year written all over it.
When you were told you were going to fight GSP, you had an emotional response, but that was probably more because it was for the title, and not so much because you were fighting GSP. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, so I want you to answer that. And then also tell me what the response is when you're told you're fighting Nick Diaz, that response.
No, not only when I got the shot at GSP was I fighting for the title. George St. Pierre he's the biggest star and one of the best fighters that's ever graced the sport. So I was getting a chance to fight for the title, but I was also fighting one of the best fighters and the biggest names that's ever that's ever been in the sport. So as far as when I got told that I was fighting Nick Diaz, I kind of just had to shake my head and laugh, man, because after all the craziness that's gone on, one more change in opponent, I was like, oh my God, are you serious? But after that, it was just excited. I was very excited, and I realized I had to change up my training and change up the game plan.
Do you feel that you're the typical kind of a fighter to come out of Jackson's camp?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a typical type of fighter. The thing about Jackson's camp is it's kind of a conglomerate of guys from all over the world. Like literally, you have guys from Russia, from Japan, from Turkey, from all over the United States. So there's not one
one typical type of fighter out of Jackson's. So I mean, that's, you know, it's kind of hard to say. I win fights. I you know, it's been said that Jackson's fighters are boring fighters, and I think that we've proved over the last 2 years with, you know, how many finishes that's just not the case. But, you know, I guess in the sense that I come well prepared and I come ready to fight, I guess I am a typical Jackson's fighter.
Who in your camp is the best Nick Diaz impersonator to train with? Not like making fun of.
I don't know. You know, there's some guys. You probably, you know, there's some up and comers that are really good, but you guys probably wouldn't recognize the name if I told you.
You expecting things to heat up come the way in? I know you and Nick have both been chill and cordial here for the most part, but have you had any interaction with Nick previous to?
Nope. I never even met the guy. I don't even think I've ever seen him in person. But you know, I mean, you know, I know that's kind of his thing. You know, he likes to get in guys' face, and that's fine. You know, that's not going to rattle me any.
Are you going to take the bait if, you know, things do get a little bit up close and personal come the post-fight or the press conference?
You know, I don't know. You know, I guess you just have to see.
Standing here, you definitely seem taller, kind of bigger than Nick. How do you see your size matchup, and do you see that you've got advantages in that situation?
Well, I think we have a pretty similar body type. He's, you know, he as far as athleticism, you know, he's this endurance athlete. He does all this distance running and swimming and biking. I think I'm more powerful and more explosive. Like I said, I've never seen the guy in person, so I guess, you know, when we face off, you know, I'll see the guy's stature. But
it's kind of rarity for you to have a guy like that. A lot of times you're having this physically imposing guy that, like you said, you're working from the bottom and whatnot.
Yeah, you know, we're Nick and myself. We are kind of the odd guys out in the division. There's a lot of you know, shorter, stockier, more muscled up guys. But you know, I think the different body types have different strategies, and you know, I don't think that there's one perfect body type for any division or for a fighter. Period.
You a gambler?
I like to play blackjack a little bit, but no, I wouldn't say I'm a gambler. No.
Well, we're in Vegas. I'm just curious if you do that to loosen up at all.
No, I try to stay out of the casino, man. The cigarette smoke kills me.
What about the 6-1 bet on John Jones being Rashad?
I mean, John Jones. I think John Jones is going to beat Rashad. So I mean, it's a good bet.
Godspeed and party on.